welcome to the desk for the last time in the ESL studios. We are live from Cologne, Germany, for one final day here. Joining me is Todd and Rotterdam. It's been a good couple of days, boys, but this is the last one we do here in the studios before moving on to Gamescom. How have you enjoyed your time so far in the tournament?
It's been pretty good, lots of good games, and it's going to get even better here with this top 8 looking pretty darn good as well. A lot of top players. I think 4 main names that people think are going to do well, but we might have a few surprises.
Any surprises for you happening today, possibly, Roddy, before we take a quick look at some graphics?
I definitely think there's going to be one surprise, but I'm not sure if it's going to be in the first series. That would be amazing, but there are definitely a couple of matches which are perhaps a little imbalanced, so to speak.
Well, we'll look at those matches in a little bit here. We've had a couple of days of StarCraft 2 action so far, and as mentioned, we're nearing towards the end. This is day 4 of the IntelliStream Masters StarCraft 2 tournament. We started on Wednesday in the open brackets. Thursday and Friday we completed group stages, and today is a big day for these players as we've reached the quarterfinals, we've reached the best of 5 stages, we've reached a point where every single player has guaranteed themselves $1,000, and of course a win today guarantees them more, but more importantly pushes them into Sunday, which is where the top 4 will play out at Gamescom. A big moment today for these players, Roddy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for 2 of them, it's been the first time in a very long time that they've been here, and they even have an opportunity to play for this amount of money and, of course, this amount of glory. You know, our first match is really a David versus Goliath match, so to speak. But even for a couple other players, a lot of WCS points on the line. For a couple of these guys who want to keep the BlizzCon dreams alive, they got to perform, so there's a lot to look out for.
Yeah, let's take a look at the bracket here, just to remind you exactly who is playing today, because we have 8 fine players, a couple of them definitely underdogs, but some very, very talented StarCraft 2 players. The first match of the day, which we will get to eventually to talk about, is Sue versus Lambo. As you mentioned, kind of a David versus Goliath game there. The second match will be Fantasy versus Patience in the teammate team kill scenario, before going on to another team kill in Nurtio versus MMA, of course, both representing Team Acer, before a Terran versus Terran, which has a lot of hype around it, and a lot of people expecting this to be the game of the evening. Of course, 4GG takes on Innovation.
Yeah, that's going to be a real big one. Even though, you know, normally as a Protoss, I'm not super hyped for a TVT, but for this one I am. In the European scene, I think 4G has always been getting a lot of love for his TVT. Sometimes justified, sometimes I felt it was a little bit overhyped. I think he's an underdog going against Innovation, but perhaps he can prove me wrong. And if he does, well, I'll be shocked and I'll be amazed.
Well, before we talk about Sue versus Lambo, is there any players that absolutely stand out as players that will definitely make it to tomorrow's part of the tournament, Todd?
I think MMA and Sue, yeah, just probably the 2 ones that look to be pretty much locked here moving on to the semifinals. It's very unlikely that Lambo or Nurtio, I think, are going to be able to upset them. Who knows, man? Sometimes.
What are you most looking forward to? Is it the possible upsets, or is it just one specific game that stands out above the rest?
Well, you know me, I play Protoss, so obviously the one Protoss that we have in there, the last Protoss standing, is going to be very interesting for me to follow, because also it's a rematch. You know, he played against Fantasy not too long ago at DreamHack. He won 3-2 back then. It was very, very close, a very nice series actually. So that's probably the game I'm looking forward to the most, as well with as the Terran versus Terran, 4GG Innovation. That's a big, big match. I think Innovation, he plays a lot of epic TVTs, thinking back on it, like a few of his series have been really, really long, you know, action-packed, so that's going to be cool as well.
Yeah, I remember the game that they played a long time ago. I think it was at DreamHack.
Against MVP?
MVP played at the season finals, if I remember correctly, was epic, and Innovation's played against Tasia. I think this is a highlight that you've mentioned before that he's played in. So definitely had some historic Terran versus Terrans. We'll see if he has another one later today. But let's start talking about our first match of the day then. So the David versus Goliath game, it's Sue versus Lambo. What's your initial thoughts, apart from the David versus Goliath aspect, Roddy?
I mean, that's pretty much all that I'm thinking of. Like, obviously, I hope that Lambo does well, but you know, he's in a pretty good mood. He seems very relaxed about it, not putting too much pressure on his own shoulders. But you know, Stu is good, and you know about his GSL runs. You know how consistent he's been. But then you take a closer look at his results, and it just gets scarier. Yeah. It's ridiculous how well Stu has been performing over, well, basically the last year and a half. It's insane.
It's absolutely insane, and Lambo has to tackle that. So let's talk a little bit about Lambo here. It's his first IntelliStream Masters tournament, and he's reached the top 8, which is a massive feat in itself. He came into this tournament as the German champion from the EPS Meisterschaft. Rest in peace, Coloris. Hope you're having fun at Guild Wars. Talking about Lambo, though. It is going to be a difficult day for this guy. He's playing a best of 5 that I don't know if really that many people thinks he can win it. Like, I mean, obviously he's got to have belief in himself, but this is a mammoth task.
Well, he's not walking around saying that he's going to beat Sue. He's walking around saying, like, I hope I can make it a fun series. He's like, if I could take a map that already makes me better than Dark and stuff, he's like, so then I'm doing something right. And he just wants to take it from there. He has a little bit of a game plan. I saw him discussing the games with his European Zerg brothers. You know, they got a little Skype chat going on. So everyone's like, you know, trying to chip in, trying to somehow push him to victory, but he knows that this is not an impossible task, but it's close to impossible.
It is close to impossible. But imagine if he did grab that 1 or 2%, you know, that very low possibility to win this and actually did manage to play in front of a German audience tomorrow.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah, I'd be losing it, actually. Like, I think if that happens, and it doesn't even matter what happens for the rest of the day. If Lambo takes this series, then we can all just like bring out the party hats, confetti, you know, just like...
We can celebrate as if he won the tournaments.
Yeah.
We'll just take him straight to Zulpischstrasse. We'll give the keys to MMA, like, lock it up, boys, we're done. You know?
We're done. Someone else can observe and commentate the rest of the day. Funker's definitely headed towards that place too.
Do you think that they gave him some good advice, the other Zergs, or were they like, sorry, guy, sorry, bro, but...
No, well, I can talk about this right now, and this doesn't actually give me a lot of, let's say, confidence for this series, but one of his game plans was to play on Moonlight Madness and play Protoss.
Play Protoss? Switch race? Okay, I can't beat this guy's over ZvZ, I might as well play another race.
Yeah, but Sue actually vetoed Moonlight Madness, so that plan went down the drain.
Goodbye.
You saw it coming.
Yes.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about this guy then. This is an absolute monster of a StarCraft 2 player. On a very popular website that a lot of people look at rankings on, Aligulac.com, he is the #1 ranked StarCraft 2 player in the world. He's recently just picked up his first ever StarCraft 2 tournament in the Kesper Cup, which was a long time overdue. He had so many second places back to back to back, and everyone was making fun of him. But here he is in Cologne, Germany, his first Intel Extreme Masters ever. Roddy, I was looking at some numbers earlier with Funker. This guy in Pro League, which is where he plays week in, week out, hasn't lost a single Zerg versus Zerg all year. That's massive.
Yeah. He's 9-0, right?
9-0 in games.
And then you're Lambo, and you're like, okay, so, you know, all these guys, they're preparing week in, week out, they're all playing with each other, they're trying to get ready.
The best minds in the world can't bring him down.
Exactly, and it's like all these teams working extremely hard, trying to somehow analyze his ZvZ, snipe it, and he still doesn't lose. And now Lambo, as German champion, has to go up against this guy that just does not lose.
I think he realized that he has nothing to lose at the same time. He just gave us a cheeky wink. He's looking pretty happy just to be here playing against Sue.
That's always one added benefit, right? When you're a complete underdog like Lambo is today, it's you know, whatever. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to play Zerg versus Zerg just like I would do, you know, any other day and see what happens because it is a tall task.
This is really one of these series that he's also aware of the fact that if he would somehow win it, we still talk about that 2 years from now when we're doing IEM season 12 here in studios. Like, well, you know, we've seen upsets before. Do you remember when? Like, that's how big this series is. That's how much of an upset it would be if Lambo takes it.
And looking at Sue, one last quick thing here before we move to the game is Sue currently, because he's had a bit of a slow year, he had a lot of round of 32s at the start. It only really started to pick up recently. He comes into this as ranked 30 in the World Championship Series rankings. And this is a player, when you look at, you know, playing at BlizzCon in the World Championship Series, is a player that should be there. But to win this tournament is the ball rolling in that direction to go into Season 3, which he has to play soon, to really kickstart that dream.
I think, even though the rank 30 is obviously something you do kind of have to worry about, I'm still not too worried about Sue not making it. I think he's going to do very well over here, and with the current shape that he's showing in Pro League, also that recent online tournament that was ridiculously stacked. Like, Sue is looking so strong, I can't imagine him dropping out in GSL in a round of 16 or even a quarterfinals. I think he's going to go very far again this season. I think he's going to collect a lot of points, and I think he's still going to make it to BlizzCon. But it does have to start here. Like, he does kind of have to win this or at least runner-up.
All right. You know, in every other game, I always ask you predictions, but I think the right question here is, what's the score going to be for Sue's victory, Roddy?
3-0, I think.
Yeah, you thinking the same? Is it that bad?
I think 3-1.
3-1, Lambo can take a map.
Better than Dark.
Better than... All right, let's head to the commentary team for this one. It's going to be the Australian Smash Brothers, Pig and Moonglade.
Welcome back to the casting desk, guys. I am Pig. Joining me is Moonglade, and we're about to witness an amazing Zerg vs. Zerg game.
It's certainly going to be an interesting one. It's really just comes down to what can Lambo do. They spoke about it a lot on the desk. It's David versus Goliath. How many stones did David bring for Goliath? Did he bring any? Because he's going to need something interesting. He's going to have to really come up with something creative, I think, to even try and take a game off Su.
Yeah, Su's so solid. It's one of these guys, you look at him and you say, where is his weakness? And then you spend a lot of time thinking and studying and looking through VODs before you find a very specific one, you know. But I think Lambo's pretty confident in terms of he's just here to try and put on a good show, right? He just wants to do himself proud at this point.
Yeah.
He knows there's no expectation of him to win, so he didn't look nervous out there.
No, he didn't. He looked like he's comfortable. He's kind of accepted his fate, or at least that he's up against a beast like that. But we can jump into the game and have a quick look at these players and where they have started on this map. Starting off in Cactus Valley.
Down here in the bottom left-hand side of Cactus Valley, it is Lambo. Representing Invasion e.sport, their newest pickup, I believe. Really wants to make a name for himself, and really already has.
Shaft as well. You know, he has had some success recently, at least in the foreigner scene. And up here in the top right, we do have the Korean player from SK Telecom. It is Su, or Goliath.
Looking focused as ever. Not a lot throws Su off his game, and both of these guys have actually been here in the studio practicing all morning already. They've been there getting warmed up, getting used to their position. Going into Cactus Valley, it's a big 4-player map, Moonglade.
It is.
What sort of style do you like to play on this map, or what do you like to see?
I like to see. Personally, I like to see, you know, get to a healthy mid game. We do see the roaches come out, or the mutas. None of the early shenanigans, but you know what? Judging by these positions especially, Zergs could get away with something pretty nasty if they really wanted to. You know, there's early pulls with the quick speedlings on one base, surprise them, because Overlords will not be scouting them anytime soon. So it's always something that both these players have to worry about, but I mean, judging by the build orders we see right now, not this game.
I like that very fast gas from Lambo, actually. Going into that fast gas right after that hatchery before spawning pool. Meanwhile, Su also going to be going for gas before pool, but a little bit later on. Now, that might be for a bit faster aggression for Lambo, might just be for safety. Interestingly enough, when you're going up against Su, sure, he's one of these great, powerful macro players, but what makes him very frightening is he mixes in a lot of those all-ins, those early speedling or 10-pull baneling attacks. Yeah. I think that makes it very frightening for Lambo. I like that he's been brave enough to open up greedily here.
Yeah, you know, it's one of his most powerful things, and I'm sure Lambo went back home yesterday and had a look at exactly what Su does and why he's so successful. And it's not any one reason at all. This guy is so solid in general at the matchup. He can do anything to you. And, you know, if you let him play that macro game especially, it's going to be where he is most comfortable.
Looking at these spawn locations, I have to say I think Su's going to probably be focused towards the Mutalisk play. If we look at his recent match history, he's really favored it. He throws the roaches out once in a while, but usually only after he's kind of been forced into some sort of defensive stance early. Normally he's been loving Mutalisks in so many matches in that Kesper Cup finals you had the pleasure of casting against Dark.
That's right.
And cross-map, a lot of space to make use of that.
A lot of space, and with both players going for early link speed, I'm sure we're going to see some of that aggression before any sort of tech is chosen as well. I mean, Baneling Nest already coming down for Lambo, so he's going to be applying the pressure here, but a little bit later is Su's.
Interestingly, these Zerglings trying to hide. A Su Zergling's going to spot this on the watchtower. They do! Oh, that's a big tell there. I think Su would have realized that 4 Zerglings kind of running off in an awkward direction. That's a little bit of a sign there. And if you watch the production tab, Lambo is on non-stop Zergling production. This is an all-in, really fast Ling Bane timing. Those 4 Zerglings on the top are going to try and morph Banelings, but has Su realized?
I don't think he has. He's still draining up. This is actually a little bit of a mistake from Su here. He's going to be really caught out because these 2 Lings are out of position. There's no Overlord to scout these Lings moving across the map, and now Baneling spawning at the front door. Now Lings are in production for Su.
Oh, he is building quite a lot of them, but these Banelings are already almost finished morphing. This big wave of Lings for Lambo is rushing across the map. The Queens for Su, they have to get a tight wall on the ramp. The drones are trying to evacuate. Lambo has to get damage done. He has to get it done fast.
Yeah, he does. There's only a short time before the Lings pop out. Still, those 4 Banelings are going to do a lot of damage, especially when the Queens go down. Still 4 of them are completely healthy. Su not even targeting them right now.
Oh, the one queen goes down. The other queen's about to go down. The banelings of Su are about to finish here. It looks like they will be able to get up. Lambo's diving for the drones.
Oh, he's trying to get that double hit on the drones, and I think he might get a bunch of them. Oh, not claiming that second hit.
Oh, not quite being able to seal the deal just there with those banelings. Lambo's continuing to flood across the map, but oh, he needs to get the critical damage done right now. A lot of Zerglings running into one of Su's banelings, and it looks like Su may have stabilized.
Only one drone went down amongst all of that. Absolutely insane. I feel like that could have been a lot better hits from Lambo, but I don't think he was expecting to get that kind of advantage, that kind of opportunity with this attack.
Oh, that's really harsh because, of course, Lambo has stopped at a very low drone count right now. He is only at 16 workers. Su is on 27. He can produce so many more units than Lambo here. And now he's pushed back onto Lambo's side of the map. Wow, massive Baneling hit.
Yeah, big hits here. One Baneling remains. His Lings are going to get around those two Banelings. Big micro mistake from Lambo. He's under the gun here, and he's going to be allowed into the main base with at least one Baneling kind of zoning out the rest of these Lings.
Oh, good focus fire from the Queen from Lambo there. But he is at such a deficit. All Su really needs to do is buy time here, defend, and the fact that he's actually putting pressure on Lambo and kind of pushing into him and even starting a Lerva in this, oh, Su's in a masterful position.
Yeah, he's in a great place right now, but he's still got to be careful of this counterattack. A lot of Lings and Banes coming across the map. Su going to have to get out Banelings of his own and try and block it up. He has two, though. Should be able to deflect this fairly easily, especially with the help of these Queens.
Oh, bringing both Queens to the front. The Banelings here, they're just the guys that basically stop Lambo from darting in with all the Zerglings at once. And Lambo's making a lot of Banelings. He's coming in here for one last-ditch effort. He needs to break through right now.
Yeah, this is really it. His one last shot. Denying a couple of those Banelings. More Banelings here, though. If he can actually get rid of these, he's going to go into the main. No, he turns around. Oh, big mistake.
Devastating Baneling hits for Su. Su commanding strong, solid defense there. Looked like he was in a spot of bother for a moment, but he stayed calm, split those drones very well.
Yeah, somehow only losing one drone amongst all that. He had so many in the red. Like, there was definitely an opportunity for a couple of Bane hits that would cause some real economic damage, but just not finding enough. And Su just held on perfectly. You know, he's been in that situation many times before in Korea.
Yeah, such a solid play there. And I think a build order like that from Lambo, it's a good choice for Cactus Valley, for those map spawns where your opponent doesn't have any real vision until those Zerglings come across the map. But I don't know. What do you think? Like,
I think a player that was maybe less nervous, more comfortable, should have claimed that victory pretty easily because Su was not prepared for it at all.
Yeah, I think
he got very fortunate.
A couple more like Baneling hits. I guess if he gets like 7 or 8 of those drones, he could have hit.
Right.
As well as there was a few times the Zerglings ran onto the Banelings, but he did put the pressure on Su there. He did bring that in. And interestingly enough, looking at the APM tab at the end of that game, I saw both of them were at about 350 average APM. I think maybe a little bit of nerves for Lambo there. Sometimes when a player gets on this big stage, they're playing a Titan like Su, you start to kind of spam a little bit more, play a little bit faster, and sometimes that actually diminishes your micro skills.
Yeah, certainly. You know, I'm sure he's a bit jittery right now. Maybe after that first game, though, he's going to settle down a little bit. He had great opportunities there. We saw a spark of hope. You know, he's certainly got the potential to take games off Su right now.
Let's hop into game here as we are spawning onto Bridgehead. And the challenger over here, the German champion, it is Lambo.
Showing extreme aggression game 1. I wonder if he's going to keep it up in this game as well. Not a bad map for it, but here on the right side of the map, we do have the red Zerg player winning game 1. It is SKT Su.
Just another day at the office.
Just another day at the office. Great control at a very dire time, somehow keeping all those drones alive in game 1.
Su, always calm under pressure. He's been on huge stages in Korea many times. This is his first, well, he's hoping for his first championship outside of Korea here tomorrow. Wants to get through this match, go through to Championship Sunday. And on Bridgehead here, this is a very interesting map. It's a map where I've seen Su favor Mutalisks, but I've also seen some players go for all-in attacks. How do you feel about Bridgehead, Glade?
Yeah, I actually love this map, especially because it's very similar to the old map of Expedition Lost because of that backdoor. I mean, we got to see it a little bit yesterday with Tilo and Nurtio, and we got to see some very explosive sort of play and very interesting dynamic sort of I guess movements with the armies, especially when it gets to the Roach versus Roach stage. You bust open that back door and everything can just really hinge on how close you're looking at the minimap, where your overlords are, and how your army is positioned to defend.
Yeah, I like that layout of the map. Stops it from ever getting to a turtley point where spines and infestors just kind of stop people from wanting to assault each other. Interestingly, Lambo earlier did cancel one of his eggs. I think a little bit of a misclick there.
That was, I think it was an overlord as well, so kind of a little bit of a misplay there. Maybe nerves actually really kicking in. You know, that's certainly something that can happen if you're a Zerg player and you're a little out of your depth, or you're just not completely focused for some reason. You make that overlord a little too early, and that can be very tilting.
Especially when your fingers are kind of clacking over that keyboard really, really fast, and a little bit of nerves can throw that off. But Lambo, otherwise, it doesn't slow his build down too much, just a small deficit there. Su, meanwhile, he has gone, of course, for this pool into hatchery and a gas at a relatively average timing, right around 3 minutes. Now, Mutalisks are fantastic here. Something with the layout of the map is that there's a lot of spread between those bases. So not only are things like Roach multi-prong and Zergling counterattacks really good, we saw Nurchio use some of that, but Mutalisks are really good because there is a lot of space to kind of come in from different angles. And as Funker was pointing out just there, down above the third base, there's like these beautiful bits of high ground.
Oh, yeah.
Air units can kind of come in from all these angles without you spotting them to the last moment, and it's really hard to see coming.
I mean, the same sort of factor applies for, Nidus play as well on this map. It does a lot of work because of that backdoor. There's always another option into the base. So there's a lot of options for both sides depending on which player the tech wants to, which tech the player wants to go in. And do you think Su might open pool first for the rest of the series based on how aggressive we did see Lambo open up game one?
I don't think so. I feel like Su's a guy who's so comfortable taking risks. I don't think he ever kind of says, I'm just going to clam up and play purely defensive. I think this game, it's smart because he's kind of thinking, well, there's a good chance you'll go for that early cheese, the 10-pool Baneling, something like that. But I think Su's one of his strengths as a player is he loves to mix it up a lot. He's got such a range of builds, and he's not necessarily insanely creative with how he does them, but he's just got such a good range and such solid execution that I think he's very confident kind of mixing up his own play and keeping the opponent guessing.
Yeah, there is certainly a reason why he's like 9-0 in Pro League and like in ZvZ. You know, he's just this guy that can somehow make the right choices every single game, despite it being a best of one or a huge series. And we are seeing once again both sides making Banelings. A lot of links coming from Su this time around though.
Ooh, looks like he wants to put on some pressure. It's not a huge swell of lings, just enough to go and put on some heavy aggression. If Lambo isn't ready, it could get some drone damage, and very nice scouting denial from Su there. Stops Lambo from spotting that fast lair. Both players look like they want to head towards that Mutalisk tech. Extra gas is going down, lairs going down, and these Zerglings coming across. Ooh, they're going to allow Su to get a lot of tempo here.
Yeah, that's right. And I did believe we did see a couple of Banelings be morphed for Lambo, but it's going to be about the detonations and if he can actually land them properly. And also, I mean, 3 queens at the front is going to kind of deflect everything here. Maybe Su will want to try and go around the back door and start applying pressure to the rocks. There's only an overlord for Su there, so Lambo hasn't got any real idea if they were to go down.
Looking like Lambo actually dropping a Roach Warrant.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, looks like he will be going for that Roach-based tech. Su already starting to pull ahead in the supply here, and he is up on those 4 gases. Looks like he will be dropping that Spire momentarily, and this is going to be a really fast Spire going down at 7 minutes 20. That's very fast.
Super fast, and I mean, as you noted about the Roach Warrant, it's actually really mistimed. And look at that Anitis behind it too. Perhaps reading that Su most likely will do this, decides to go just simply straight into Roaches, bust down Anitis. I think maybe at the back here, at the back door. But he does have other options. You know, the front of the third base, there is an Overlord as well. But Su, he's being very smart about this, spreading out the Overlords around that back door as well.
You know, Su is a guy who learns from his mistakes, and this actually looks almost identical to a game which Su played against Dark in the Kesper Cup finals. And this was the one map which he actually lost in those finals to Dark. And it was this exact same play, this Nidus Worm on the south side of the map.
Here
right
it
where we
is.
see that spawning, but this time Su has the Overlord in position.
He has it in position. Ling's actually going to get there in time, though. I don't think so. I think Roaches will be able to pop out. It's going to be so close.
Can Queens get out and transfuse? Sue's, I think, was the key. Oh, the Zerglings do so much damage. Looks like they are going to kill that.
Oh, no.
And look at this. On the top side of the map, Su is scouting everywhere. He does not want to let another Nidus Worm come up. He knows there's vision there and just shutting this down. Lambo needs to get this Nidus Worm because he has roaches with no roach speed, queens which are very slow off creep. His army's great against Zerglings and Mutalisks, but he needs to actually get it across the map quickly. If he's just sitting here, he cannot walk over. And now suddenly Lambo has no good option. He's just continuing to produce queens and roaches, but it seems like he's just trying to find a hole in the vision, and Sue's Zerglings are on the hunting path. They do not want to let that get up.
It's the name of the game right now. Simply not allow Nidus on the map anywhere near all three of these bases, and from here it's such a simple game for Su. Either mass mutas, you know, go into like incredible muta amounts. There's no hard air counter here besides the queens, and you know, once you have enough mutas, you can start like single one-shotting all the queens before transfuse is even an option. But look at this. Looks like we actually might see a Nidus get up just out of range of these Zerglings. As I say that, look at that.
They get on top of it just before it pops. The Queen's gonna have time to pop out. No! A couple roaches get out. The Queen doesn't have enough energy for the transfuse. The Lings and Mutas are gonna clean this up, and just 3 units there for Su. Oh,
GG. Nightmare game 2 as well. Su just shutting down everything. Perfect reads, and you know, great map control and great map vision.
A few unforced errors there from Lambo, putting him slightly behind, but really what that came down to, I think he made a great build order decision. Let's go for this attack. Didn't see the Overlord vision. You know, there's always a bit of a gamble. You never know exactly where your opponent can see, and he kind of just said, look, I think this is a good spot for the Nidus. Sue's Overlord happened to see it. And,
it was underneath the Overlord practically. I mean, you have the same sort of range of vision as their Overlords with your Overlord. Put it under your Overlords so they can't see it. I feel like maybe just a little ambitious there, putting it that forward. Maybe put it right at the back behind the minerals, and so you can get the creeps out, the queens, the roaches, drop down a ton of tombs and start working on those destructible rocks.
I think that would make a pretty big difference. I mean, you get that up, it's great, right? And as soon as one goes down, it's not losing that Nidus Worm necessarily. It's not losing the 15 seconds. It's the fact that your opponent, you know, knows exactly what's happening. Your hand is shown, and they're just not going to give you that opportunity to put it down again. There's no way. And all the Muta player needs is time, right? They just need time.
All they need is time. Like, all you need is to build up that Muta ball. I mean, if you can deny the third base of the mutas of the player going for the Mutalisks, maybe you have a second win there. You can transition into Infestors and slowly get a third base of your own and stabilize the game. But beyond that, it is very all in.
Yeah, Su looking very focused here. He's so far had some very clean games. I think he's just very comfortable. Doesn't want to lose any maps here, though. He wants to go through in as clean and quick a fashion as possible. Lambo, on the other hand, I really want to see him gather up some more momentum this game. I want him to see a little bit of a calmer opening from him, and I think he's making good decisions in terms of the general builds. It's just very small errors.
Execution, I think, is the key right there. I'd love to see him try and take this later. I want to see him try and test his macro skill against this kind of player. I think that's the last option he has left here. He's tried 2 very aggressive all-inish builds. Let's see this time around on Terraform.
Well, he is going to have to bring it all together here. It is our German player, Lambo. Fighting for his new team, wants to do them proud here at Invasion Esports. Looks a little bit shaken up there.
That's right. Well, down in the bottom right, we do have the player up 2 games looking to close this out. It is SKT Su. Playing a flawless game so far.
Su's looking fantastic. As always, it's been such a pleasure to watch him rise back to the top of the StarCraft scene over the last few months. Just showing that commanding play, which we so rarely see from anyone else. Whenever I think of Su, I always think of a few games like where any other player, you just think, oh, this isn't going to work, or, you know, no way you're out of this game. I always think of the game versus Flash he played in one of the season semifinals, I believe it was, and he was like way behind. He lost like 25 drones at the start of the game, and then he just kind of won from an almost unwinnable situation. He's one of these players that kind of defies the expectations that you have, even when you've been watching this game for so many years.
Yeah, he is also one of the most consistent players we've ever had. Like last year, it was a pretty rough year for him in terms of not getting a championship, but he did get 5 grand finals of major events. That in itself is, I think, a lot bigger than winning multiple championships. But if you can actually win that many times in a row, and then come back this year and do it again, or at least begin to after about a 6-month break, that's something else. It's a very talented player. And he's already claimed his first victory in Korea, you know, with the Kesper Cup. And here we are again, and he's looking primed to at least do very well in this tournament.
Going for that hatchery first build there is Su. Interestingly, no gas coming down from him here on Terraform just yet. Looks like he may actually want to play a gasless opening.
I like this.
It's a very different style from what we've seen from him recently.
Yeah, this is actually this is something I can appreciate. It's a bit of an older tech, much older build that we don't usually see these days anymore. It obviously requires a lot of patience. It usually ends up in players going roaches unless they want to go for a bit of a hidden Zergling surprise attack, but this has certainly kind of drifted away from the current meta.
Yes, it's going to be interesting here on Terraform, of course. There's a lot of cool roach pushes you can do, but because of the mechanics with that destructible kind of rock tower in the middle, there's a lot of buying time you can do. If you're ever a little bit behind in a roach versus roach war, your opponent's doing a sneaky roach push, if you catch wind and knock down your rock tower, it can actually often buy a lot of time. And with the more speedling-based styles, you can kind of just run around the edges of the map and ignore that sort of thing.
Yeah, and with the choke points as well, in general, like if it ends up in roach versus roach, which I think it might unless Lambo wants to try and bust something out early, it is so hard to engage into like the natural or third base because the concaves are going to be so advantageous beyond the destructible rocks. It's such a thin choke. We did see this actually, this map played yesterday as well, and a lot of interesting sort of attacks can occur, especially, well, as we say, this Overlord going down is a huge blow this early on.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Well, it's a fantastic for Su and a complete disaster for Lambo.
Yes. A lot of players love to set that Overlord there to try and see what units are rallying down the ramp. Su, knowing that, he realized if I just bring my queens from both sides, I can snipe that down. Of course, Lambo here has the Zergling speed advantage, but he's seen gasless from Su, so rather than opting for that Baneling Nest, he's just rushing up into his lair. And you know what? I feel like that's a Mutalisk timing lair. That's like really fast.
Yeah, if we see more Extractors go down, maybe one more at least, it certainly is going to look like that Mutar opening. And it's going to certainly give him a lot of map control for a while because of this gasless opening from Su. He's going to have the creep spread though, and it's really going to be coming down to Lambo denying the third base for as long as possible and trying to get ahead in that regard.
Ooh, Lambo coming across with a few Zerglings to pressure. I believe there is actually a small gap of Su's queens there at the front, but he does adjust that. Su very aware of that positioning. Walling off with the Evolution Chamber and the Roach Warren, it looks like Su is playing a stock standard gasless Roach game here. There's no delayed Zergling speed, nothing like that. Now, Lambo's goal? I guess it's here, yeah, rushing for Spire.
Rush Spire.
What do you think his goal is in the next couple of minutes in this game?
I think it has to be, if it's going to be the traditional sort of early Mutas, you're going to take map control, deny creep with the Speedlings until they come out. Then I guess Mutas come out in the map, you try and deny that third base, get your own up, and follow up with Roaches of your own at some point when you have that clear macro and production advantage.
Oh, the Zerglings taking a chance to run past those queens. They want to check what's going on in here. They see no third gas on Su's natural. They're coming into the main. They see the lair, and he realizes no wiggly lines, hot air above the spawning pool. That means there's no Zergling speed on the way. So Lambo feels very safe. He knows he doesn't need to worry about anything except your very typical roach speed push, which won't hit for a while.
Yeah, certainly so. And it does mean he can't take this third base. He has all the complete map control right now, and his main goal, deny the third base for as long as possible. Mutas aren't really going to end the game ever in this kind of matchup because Spore Crawlers are so strong and Queens are naturally anti-air, but they can put on a lot of damage.
Does look like only one spine coming down for Lambo so far at the front. His Mutas are going to be so fast that he can really afford to skimp on that sort of thing. Also, with Zerglings coming out, he can go in pressure, and he's going to try and deny the third base of Su. Now, Su's got plenty of Roaches out. He should be able to defend it, but he will be pinned at home.
Oh, look at this. A lot of Lings coming around the back door. Looks like those Roaches completely on point here. He shouldn't be able to lose the hatchery. So good defense from Su, and it's kind of putting the pressure on Lambo right now because he does get those early Mutas out, but if you can't find a good use for them, if this third base gets up comfortably, Su makes it to Infestors and has just a comfortable mid-game, I certainly give Su the advantage because he's getting these upgrades so much earlier as well.
We do see one evolution chamber drop down for Lambo now. Interestingly enough, if my memory serves me correctly, there was a time quite a while ago where Lambo was actually going for a very special build, but let's put that aside for the moment. We do see the roaches coming across. They want to do some damage here, but Lambo's mutas are on point. They're starting to shoot down these roaches, but it looks like the roaches are diving for the third base. They're going to try and kill this hatchery before they go down.
Yeah, it's going to be a hard task with this many mutas bearing away at them, but +1 is on the roaches, so they can deal with the lings very quickly. Wow, like it's just kind of a time-buying sort of move, I guess, from Su.
I think it's a great trade for Lambo, though. I think this is fantastic for him. Getting all those roaches, only losing 2 drones and a few zerglings. This is great. And, oh, we do see melee upgrade on Lambo's production tab. I think we're going to see a very fast infestation pit drop behind this, and he's going to rush towards Ultralisks just off single evolution chamber upgrades. There we go. This is the Lambo build. I was actually thinking before this match, how can Lambo take one? And I was thinking, if he still does this cute build, this actually has a good shot. It's such a funky build. It's really cool.
Yeah, that is a cheeky build. I like it a lot. I mean, if he has the space to get there is the question. And, well, he's got a fair amount of time for now with only pathogen glands starting up for Su. It's going to be a long time before he can move across the map. And the main sort of anti-air for his army is the Queens, and not much creep spread for Su right now either.
Okay, so Lambo's plan of this build just to keep back Su. Keep pressuring with the mutas, buy time, and he's not building any real ground army. It's all about these mutas buying time until he gets the Ultralisks out. So up until that point, he's a little bit exposed to ground pushes, but because there's no mobile anti-air for Su, Su's going to have a lot of trouble pushing. Now, I think in Su's spot, and I'm not sure if you agree with me, Glade, do you think he has any idea this is going on? How can he figure this out, and what does he have to do to actually stop this happening?
I think experience dictates he probably has an idea there's something. There's a possibility that this could be it. He hasn't really scouted too much on the map, but maybe he will attempt to at least send an overseer that way in the near future. It's either going to be, you know, Roach Hydra, it's going to be, or it's pretty much either going to be that, or it's going to be a very quick hive into Ultra Tech or some sort of funky Broodlord play. He knows something is up. So he is making the roaches, he's making the infestors that are going to deal with the Mutalisks and into a Hydralisk den. But yeah, I'm
look
sure
at
he
this.
doesn't know.
Burrow Infestors coming out, and the Mutalisks happen on top of them right away. Oh, such a quick fungal from Su, but those mutas will regen. If he can't chain those down, then this is just wasted energy for Su. Only kills a single Mutalisk. That's really great for Lambo.
Wow.
Oh, wow. This is actually going very well for him right now. Su, he does see an higher than normal Mutalisk count, and that is a bit of a tell in itself that there might be something going on. Normally what you'd aim for in Su's position is just to go for a big maxed out Roach Hydra Infestor push, and you try to hit before these Ultralisks can pop. We can see the Hydralisks joining the composition now, but that Ultralisk cavern is already started. There's only about 2 minutes until we see a lot of Ultralisks join the fray.
Yes, a lot of gas already banked up for Lambo as well, so he's in a good place to make them. It's just about buying time until then, and Su, you know, even when it gets to them though, you know, granted, like, Ultras do come out, there's still an opportunity for Su to take the fight if he has, you know, the decent army supply lead. Oh, no.
Wow.
Oh, there you go.
Massive fungal growth there. All these Mutalisks getting destroyed. Oh, a couple of them actually surviving there because there was no energy left over from early on. We do see some of those mutas survive, but that is great for Su because it takes so much pressure off him now. Previously, those Mutalisks were a real strong counterattack force. They could cut off reinforcements. Now it's only a really ragtag group of Mutalisks left over.
Simply move across the map as we see now. Now that he's got rid of the backbone of the army that's kind of containing him, he's going to see what's up. You know, he can push forwards here, scout with the roaches that are at the front. He sees that Lambo's trying to buy time here. Got to be careful. There is one infestor that can fungal up these roaches. And he sees the spine crawlers, and I think this gives away a lot about what's going on.
Oh my gosh, he's fungal growth, and he's dropping the rock, splitting Su's army in half.
Whoa.
There's actually so few units that actually got through, just a few roaches and Hydralisks, and they can't get through these spines. Such a cute maneuver from Lambo. Oh, his fungal ran out just before the rocks fell down, so it didn't quite crush the units in there.
That split was something else. But, you know, it bought enough time for all these Ultras to come out. Currently, we're sitting at about 7 Ultralisks right now, so that's an army Su cannot fight.
This is a very smart call by Su. Pulling back here, he needs to abuse choke points like this, but he's letting Lambo through. Is Lambo going to take the fight? Lambo is pretty far down on army supply right now. I think this is the right call. Just use the Ultras defensively and charge across the map with these cracklings. They have adrenal glands. They have 1-1. They are going to be able to decimate Su's base. Su realizes this. He realizes he's got to do something with this army right now.
Well, it's going to be a big attack on the spines, and these ultras, these eggs are going to block out the Ultralisks until they hatch, and the ultras will actually start DPSing down the infested Terran. So he has a lot of buffering for his Roach Hydra, but Su kind of has to kill with this aggression, with this attack.
Oh, really nice fungal growth from Lambo. The Ultralisks are engaging into the Roaches. There is just so much Roach Hydra here, though, and these Ultralisks are only 2-1 upgraded right now. They are getting decimated by the Roach Hydra. Both players are on 140 supply right now. There's still a very frightening ball of Roach Hydra, but Su's economy is almost completely gone at home.
That's right, and I mean, we do see 5 more Ultras are on the way. If the Remax is good and they come out in a decent position, he should be able to clean out what Su has left over attacking his base.
Oh, this tiny group of Roach Hydra has to completely shut down all of Lambo's units as they pop out. Lambo being very clever, though. He's letting his Ultralisks rally out into his main base. He's letting them build up. He doesn't want to engage this just a couple units at a time. He wants to go everything at once, because these melee units, if they can all wrap around, suddenly they'll get the surface area, they'll crush through.
It really comes down to that. If they don't have the surface area, they will be wiped out. There is no hope at all. But if he can get a decent surround and decent engagement with these Ultras and their AoE, there might be hope here.
Oh, he's kind of going in just 1 or 2 Ultras at a time. He is doing some great damage on the backside of this, but there's a lot more Roaches coming across the map. He does take out 1/2 of the Roach Hydra, but there's so many more units coming in. Lambo's supply is dropping.
Yeah, just not enough units together. GG, well played. Su gonna take this very quick 3-0.
Ooh, a very clean first couple of games, but a crazy wild last game there.
That was a fun last game. Su was tested that time around. It was the one game that did go the distance as well, which is funny. You know, maybe if Lambo had have done that a couple more times earlier on, he would have had a better shot.
You never know. I mean, that was such good execution on that build. You could tell that's the Lambo special, as I like to call it. Such a cool build, because the Ultralisks get out a lot faster than the classic way you execute that. You've got kind of double evolution chamber.
Yeah.
You've maybe got like a speed bane upgrade. He just skips out on all that and just rushes up that tech tree. He says, yeah, I've got a bit less upgrades, but I hit that hive army a lot sooner, and it's a lot more intimidating.
Yeah, it certainly was a surprise to Su, I think. He finally made it across the map, and his 7 Ultras are waiting for him with a small spine forest growing. I think just a little bit more time, and Lambo would have had the army to just win the game.
Yeah, maybe a bit more creep spread. Like, imagine if when Su's coming through that choke point, through the rocks, if there's actually defensive creep spread and, you know, the Ultras can kind of engage with the spine crawlers, things could have been totally different. But Su playing a commanding style. Let's hear from the man himself over at the interview desk.
Thank you very much, boys. Joined by Su here. Really dominating performance there. Feel like he was almost warming up for a game that's not happening today. Like, yeah. You have to just kind of emphasize, was that as easy as it seemed for everyone watching back at home?
3-0. 일단 지금 여기 이 게임스컴 대회가 독일에서 이루어지고 있는데 유일하게 남아서 독일 선수를 거의 뭐 컴퓨터랑 하듯이 인공지능이랑 게임하듯이 경기를 끝냈네요. 어땠나요?
사실 제가 처음 들어봐서 이름을 잘 못할 거라고 생각을 했는데 그 그랜드마스터 랭킹을 봤는데 되게 높으신 거예요. 그러고 그래서 좀 긴장 많이 하고 했는데 쉬울 줄 알았는데 생각보다 되게 어려웠어요.
I've actually never heard of this guy Lambo before, so I expected him to be a really bad player, just because, you know, he's not very well known. But when I actually met him at the lobby in the chat, I noticed that his the bowler was Grandmaster, so I checked his win ratio and stuff, and it was actually pretty impressive. So I was a little nervous in the beginning, and first couple of games it worked out really well, and towards the end, you know, I could start to tell that this guy is actually not a fake Grandmaster or anything. He's actually got the talent and the skills.
So ask Su, when did he feel like he'd won the series? After map number 1, after map number 2?
자, 뭐 3-0으로 끝나서 몇 개 경기를 많이 해보진 못했지만 몇 경기가 딱 끝났을 때 아니면 어느 정도 시점에서 왔을 때 내가 이겼구나, 얘 질 수가 없구나 라는 마인드가 드셨나요?
이제 2번째 판도 이기고 3번째 판도 이제 좀 여유 있게 해보려고 하는데 너무 잘하시는 거예요. 그래서 좀 힘들 수도 있겠구나 싶었는데 다행히 운 좋게 이긴 것 같아요.
약간 방송용 멘트가 섞인 것 같은데요.
아니요, 진짜예요.
First couple of games, like I said earlier, it was really easy. Third one, I was like, okay, there's no way I can lose against this guy.
Yeah.
And when I saw the build, I panicked a little bit. clearly not enough to throw the game away. But I can see that he was very talented. But towards the last engagement at the game 3, it was like, okay, 3-0.
Let's move away from Lambo then now. It's over, it's done, it was 3-0, it was nice and fast. Let's talk a little bit about his possible next opponent. So his next opponent's either going to be Fantasy or Patience. Does it matter which way this goes? Does he even care? Because he came into the tournament as the favorite and he's looking like he's continuing to be the favorite. Some people even say he will win this tournament without dropping a single map.
자, 어윤수 선수 그 다음 상대가 정명훈 선수 아니면은 조지현 선수가 남아 있는데 테란과 프로토스 종지 약간 다르죠. 어느 선수가 좀 올라왔으면 하는지, 누가 좀 더 쉬울 건지, 아니면 까다로우면 누가 왜 까다로울 건지. 그리고 많은 사람들이, 많은 시청자들이랑 팬들이 우승을 할 거라고 예측을 지금 하고 있는데 이번에 또 우승을 할 건지, 아니면은 가서 또 타이틀을 뺏어올 건지.
일단 최근에 명훈이 형한테 좀 엄청 대역전 승을 당해가지고 좀 무섭고, 그래서 명훈이 형 말고 명훈이 형보다 조지현 선수랑도 하고 싶고, 사실 여기 오면서 이신영만 넘으면 우승이다라고 많이 생각했거든요. 그래서 이신영만 떨어지길 빌고 있습니다.
Recently, I've actually thrown a game to Fantasy, so I would prefer if Patience come up, but only one that's in my mind is Innovation. Hoping to have him seen dropped out earlier today and not have to face him tomorrow.
Would that mean that he's won the tournament? So let's just, if Innovation loses today, Sue thinks he's won.
미시영 선수가 떨어지면 우승은 당연한 건가요?
It's not
아닌 경우도 많이 봤었는데.
너무 거만할 순 없으니까 누구든 열심히 할 생각입니다.
Because of my past history in tournament runs, I'm not going to be cocky and say I got this, but I'm gonna prep for whoever I match up against, and if Innovation comes up, he does. If not, then a little bit of a smile, I guess, coming into tomorrow.
Okay, one final quick question then before we end this. Sue's record right now, Pro League, I'm sure he knows, 9-0 against Zergs. His team that he plays for hasn't lost a single game since March, a very, very long time in Pro League. What does he credit his own success to this year in the league, and also his team's success? Is it just pure hard work day in, day out?
올해 이제 프로리그 직접 다 아시겠지만 저그 대 저그전에서는 어윤수 선수 본인 스스로 지금 9대 0이라는 승률을 지금 자랑하고 계시고, 또 SKT T1 자체도 지금 패를 3월 달부터 기록을 지금 안 하고 있는 걸로 알고 있는데, 팀의 연습 환경이라든지 이런 분위기가 좀 바뀐 게 있나요? 아니면은 내가 잘하다 보니까 애들도 좀 따라오는 것 같고 이런 느낌이 좀 드는 게 있나요?
딱히 예전과 다른 점은 없고 그냥 연습 시키는 대로 다 하고.
예전에는 안 했다는 얘기네요.
이제 예전에 좀 스스로 하니까 올해부터는 애들이 다 스스로 하다 보니까 더 능률이 올라가서 더 잘하는 것 같고, 저는 원래 잘했는데 성적이 좀 안 나왔네요.
하나밖에 없고
이제 나온 거죠.
Nothing major changes within the team house itself. One thing that's changed is that previously we've had a very strict schedule in terms of practices, when we practice, when we take a break. This year it's been changed slightly where the coach is a little bit lenient, I guess, because we had such success in the previous Pro League and coming up to the first round of this Pro League. Now everyone's kind of on their own. There is a certain schedule and guidelines too, when you need to wake up, when you need to show up and stuff, but the rest of it is just kind of, you do your own thing, you figure out your practice regime and work on that. And in terms of my skills, I don't think I was ever a bad player. It's just things didn't work out all that much. I only have one badge, but minus the fact that I don't have a lot of tournament championship title belts, I don't think I was ever a bad player.
All right, thank you very much, James. Awesome to you. Thank you very much, Sue. Congratulations. Top 4 going to Gamescom tomorrow, everybody. We'll see him play for the championship title on Championship Sunday. Make sure to check out all action that you've missed so far in the tournament at plays.tv. Highlights, first-person views, and any game that you've missed so far. We're going to go to a quick break, but before that, make sure to check this little video out we got. Rotterdam checks out Cologne.
Cologne is one of the oldest German cities. In fact, in the 1st century, it was one of the most important trade and production centers of the Roman Empire. The city underwent large development up until the Second World War. In April 1945, there were only 40,000 people living in the city. It took 15 years for the population to climb back up to the number where it was in 1939, before the Second World War broke out.